This video I'm doing some straight back feeding, cornrow, stitch braided, and I start off with pre-braiding it. In the back I am doing a layer of knotless. You could do 3 or you could do 4. I'm doing 3. Her braids are going to be like a medium small size, so yeah, just something to make sure like I do this so the nape won't be too tight, because if I was to braid these all the way down in the cornrows with no layer, that nape area tends to get pulled and it can cause breakage. Plus we're going to put her hair in some buns, so this helps if you want to do buns later on, or just give it extra braids as well, like more volume with braids where it's not just like 10 or whatever. I hope this makes sense. But anyway, so I'm just doing a traditional knotless braid. You could do a traditional braid as well, but I'm just doing a knotless braid and I'm just feeding in the hair. Because of the density of her hair, I like to feed in the hair based off of the thickness. So I do small pieces, about 3 or 4 pieces. And now I'm just doing the top part. I did mold it and everything. If you continue to watch, you'll see exactly how I mold her hair with the pure neat braid. Everything that I use will be in the description box below, so you can go ahead and get all of those things at my Amazon storefront. And yeah, but when you stitch, you literally take your time. So I think of it like as a 1-2 method. So I'm using those finger precision part pinky. I put them on my pinky, but you can put them on any finger. But you want to just go in with a stitch, and then 1-2, and then go in with another stitch. And that's pretty much how I do my stitch. So if you look again, it's braid, stitch, 1-2. Then I add in the extensions because I'm getting a little bit further down. This braid isn't going to be super thick, but you see I just stitched in 1-2. Then I'm going to add my other piece. And you want to add small pieces. I would say half of a pencil type of small, or even smaller, depending on the thickness that you are going for, and also by the thickness of your client's head. Because as you see, I will not be adding in a whole bunch of braiding hair in the thicker parts of her hair. So this one, because it's on the perimeter, this braid in particular, I'm adding in the extensions. And I just continue to braid all the way down. She is going to have curly ends. And this is going to be like a little past her mid-back length. And I'm just braiding all the way down. You do want to leave out any type of edges. We're doing little to none edges. Just what would naturally probably come out as time go on. Now you see me on the thicker part of her hair, and I just braid 1-2 stitch on both sides, and 1-2 stitch, braid, stitch, 1-2 stitch, 1-2 stitch. And that's pretty much how I stitch my braids. Again, you will see exactly how I mold it after. And you want to pre-part, because sometimes when you just freehanding, you end up having smaller braids possibly, or it's just not symmetrical the way that you will want it to be. I like to go in like you just seen with the rat tail comb, to kind of pull against like the opposite way of me braiding, just to loosen up the braid. And I don't do it too tight, too hard. I know it looked like it because everything's sped up, but stitch braids take time. Like, it's not like an hour hairstyle. For some people it is, but not for me. And I really just take my time, but by me having everything pre-parted, it just makes everything go faster. And I'm sorry if you hear maybe some noise or it sounds stuffy, because my allergies is kicking my butt right now. So yeah, if you are finding value to this video, make sure you thumbs up, subscribe, share, repost, do all of the things, and let me know if this video is helping you in the comments below, because this let me know if my tutorials are really helping like a beginner braider, or just helping them understand like why certain things is done a certain way. But yeah, and the type of hair that I'm using is Gael braids. I'm using this because it's hyperallergenic, chemical free, and it's apple cider vinegar rinse. So yeah, I really like this hair because she has like flakes sometimes, and I think it's because she's allergic to the extensions. But yeah, I tried to get as much footage of like doing this style. If you want to see this style again, make sure you let me know in the comments below. Like if you want to see more of the back, I tried to get the footage as best as I could, but we were actually on a time, so yeah. But I'm just stitching 1, 2 all the way, and I'm just basically doing the design that you guys seen in the beginning of the video. Only thing that I do differently is I mold it and I part it with the braiding gel off camera. But again, you're gonna see very shortly how I mold down my stitch braids before I braid it, and I braid tighter, not looser, not too tight, but you know, I do like a loose braid because that's not the braid. It's just basically telling me what the hairstyle will look like in the end. So yeah. But we watching the Michael Jackson American Dream. This was my daughter's first time watching it because we eventually we went and seen the new Michael movie. It was so good. But anyway, you want to have a lot of clips as well to make sure the hair is pinned off to the side. So would like you to comment if you are watching this to learn how to stitch. What do you have difficulty with when doing it, or what is something that you know could help you moving forward that I may have not talked about in this video? I do respond back to the comments, so just make sure you ask whatever questions. I do respond, and I want to make that very clear because I know that these can be very, very hard. I do want to say, if your client's hair isn't super thick, you want to make sure you're doing very small pieces. So remember what I said as far as braiding hair. Remember what I said is like cutting a pencil in half amount. I think when you're doing the ones on the scalp, you're going to even part that in half. So think about a portion of a pencil. Like if you put a pencil, split that in half, then split the halves in halves into quarter pieces. That's how small you need to be, the pieces need to be, and you build up the braid that way. But yeah, I'm just braiding it all the way down. All the hair that I use is prepped on my braiding rack. It's just easier for me. I don't do the pull and go method. I prep ahead of time and accordingly, and that is pretty much how I set up for braiding. And I did do her hair on blow dry hair because it just makes it a lot easier to do. And yeah. Alright, I'm on the last braid. So I go in with braiding gel around her entire perimeter, and I am heavy on the braiding gel. I take the unbrush to detangle through the braiding gel on her hair because it makes it really stiff. Not too stiff, but it basically molds it, and I go on both sides and I really slick it through, and yeah, everything's sped up. It may look like I'm hurting her, but I promise you I'm not. It's just sped up and it's showing a different thing. But you want to go gently through with the rat tail comb to really mold it into place, get all those pieces, and you're going to also take out the edges that you want out on your client and just really mold it that way. Once I get done molding it, I then take that, what you just see with my finger, that precision parting, and I slice through, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And then I just continue to braid the way that you guys have seen me throughout this entire hairstyle. And that's pretty much how I do the molding process, and I really hope this helped. So you do want to be generous with the braiding gel for sure, because it really, 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 really matters when doing stitch braids, especially on thick hair. Now that I am done with all of the braids, it is time to curl these ends. Yes, I did make knots at the end of each braid, like a slip knot of where I wanted the braid to end, and then the ends for the curly pieces. You can use flexi rods if you would like. I personally think that the perm rods are more tighter, and it lasts longer for me than flexi rods. I generally use like flexi rods only when I am trying to have like more of a softer, looser curl pattern, not as tight. So I'm using these. These are more like a medium large. You can use whatever size you desire. You can use small, you can use medium. I'm trying to do like at least 2 or 3 braids. You can even do large. It's really up to the curl pattern that you would like. And I just wanted to demonstrate too how this Gael braids, like Gael hair rather, dips in hot water, and it does take very well for me. So I know some people was wondering, do this hair feel the same and act the same as like braiding hair you would buy from like Expressions? And for me, it does. I'll give this hair like a 10 out of 10. And I will recommend. It does all the same things, and it's hyperallergenic and chemical free. So yeah, but here I am dipping it with hot water. I would recommend adults only doing this, or somebody that knows what they're doing. Kids should not be doing this part, because you can literally burn yourself. So yeah, just a note in that. Once I dip them all, I unravel them right away, and you see the girls is curling. It's giving what it needs to give. And later on, I'm going to show you guys how I added in the boho pieces for a boho look in a different video. So be on the lookout for that. Now I'm just going over her scalp with this As I Am dry scalp oil. And I like to just go through and make sure it's nice and hydrated and oiled after the hairstyle is all done. And I'm doing both layers. And then I'm going to also just rub it all the way through her braids and just really coat it nice on there. So after I get done, I spray it down with some oil sheen as well. She won't have to worry about doing any of these finishing touches for at least a week when it comes to like the oil sheen. And here's how the braid pattern turned out. Super cute. It's not a whole lot of design, but it's enough. And then I'm about to do these edges. I like to use Edge Booster because it doesn't turn white. At least that hasn't been my experience. And also, that's mainly because she washes her edge control out of her hair, which you should always do every night. I think sometimes girls get buildup or they just apply too much. I don't have that issue when it comes to Edge Booster. And this is the melon smelling one. So good. But anyway, I'm just doing that, and then it's pretty much done. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Comment below, reshare, repost, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you like it. Y'all let me know in the comments below. Peace and hair grease. Bye.